Cowboys Nation. The road to the Super Bowl starts right here, and it starts right now.
I got cleared so early, so, I'm just grateful for the opportunity, to get back out there and get better.
The thing about these receivers, when you get on the radar because you run routes and you catch the ball, but what are you doing on special teams?
One comes along that lifts the whole damn Dallas Cowboys.
Great night of practice here at the Star in Frisco. You are looking live out here at the Plaza. A lot of people out here after an evening practice in Frisco. Yeah, you see yourself up on the big screen. Jerry built that thing. Nice for you. All right, Lindsay Draper and Brian brought us here outside on the Tostitos Championship Plaza. Sun has gone down a little bit. We're happy about that. Great evening practice in here. Brian, we've got so much to talk about. The game, cuts, everything in between.
Yeah, that's what we're to that point in camp, though, where you're starting to look at things and saying, okay, how's this going to shape out? How are things going to be with the 53-man roster? These are all the things that, that's what the personnel guys are getting excited for. The players have still got things to play for. A lot of decisions still have to be made.
And we in the media take a few minutes and try to fill out this roster, and it takes us forever. I can't imagine how long it actually takes the coaches who meet for hours fighting for their guys in there.
There's a lot of guys that are sitting there, and they're looking at each other. There's scouts, there's coaches, and there's a lot of back and forth. You got to leave your ego inside that room. You can't take it outside. You got to leave it inside.
All right, I love an evening practice here at the Star in Frisco. Coach Garrett wrapping things up behind us inside Ford Center right now. Brian, tell me what you think he's saying. There's Dak Prescott right there.
Yeah, they're going through some things. They're in a situation period right now, Linz, where they're trying to figure out using their 2-minute offense. Maybe they're using some of the 4-minute offense stuff that they're going to do. It's just in-the-game situations. Jason Garrett is really big on that. He wants you to, as a player, to understand end-of-game situations are important. It's the difference between winning and losing games, and that's what they're working on right now.
Well, you just saw an example when they played the Texans with the block punt, and Coach Garrett referenced it today to us. He said, we did good in that sudden change situation. They practice for all these things.
They do. They practice for all these things, and you can see right there with Cooper Rush, though, he's getting an opportunity now. There was a lot of questions about who was going to be the backup quarterback, but Cooper Rush has done a nice job here and throws the ball right out there to John Vay Johnson. He's a guy we were talking about him a whole lot going into this training camp, but kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit.
You know who had a great catch today on a long ball? Devin Smith. He just keeps doing good things to help himself as we get closer and closer to the deadline.
Well, that's the thing with Devin Smith, though. You're talking about a guy that we really weren't going to visit with about that much. He was a guy that we were sitting there thinking, okay, then, well, is he a camp body? Couple of knee injuries, the surgeries and stuff. Has he lost some of his speed? But he's come out there, and also Cedric Wilson, both of them have put themselves in position to make this team.
All right, guys, we are live here broadcasting the end of practice out here at the Star in Frisco. If you're out here, I'd love to hear you guys. For everybody listening online, they want to hear you guys make some noise. Brian, let's get into some of your Scouts Eye reviews. Dak Prescott, the little that you got to see of him in the Houston game, kind of missed on that first drive, but then he got on his horse the second drive.
Yeah, he did. And what we've seen, Linz, the previous 2 games were against San Francisco and then against the Rams, where the offense was smartly moving down the field. And I think that's the thing with Dak Prescott that you have to be happy about. They've been kind of a mixed match with that offensive line, but he's been able to play behind it. They found a way without Ezekiel Elliott to move the ball a little bit. So, yeah, it's nice on his part. The things, Linz, that he was working on in the offseason, the OTAs and things like that, the accuracy, the arm angle, John Kitten has helped him a lot in both those areas for this team.
And I had a chance to ask him that during the game. Obviously, we get to interview these players on the sidelines during the preseason games, and I asked him about those details. What is he trying to get better? He said I want to know every single thing in the game of football. I don't want there to be anything that I don't know about, and you're starting to see that in the little details, like on that drive with Michael Gallup, making some great connections in here, just little things that are really going to take him to the next level.
Yeah, what I've learned about Dak Prescott is if he's going to his left, he is going to do something big with that play. Yeah, spectacular. And the way he gets his shoulders square and is able to generate some power on that ball to get it to. And nice job by Michael Gallup coming back. There's a little bit of separation there, but he's able to make that play. Dak Prescott, the vision to see, they might have them a first receiver. We talk about first receiver, second receiver, Amari Cooper, is he the first guy? This team might have a 1A and a 1B when you look at Michael Gallup.
All right, looking back inside to Ford Center at practice, Brian, as we keep going through who is shining this training camp, Tony Pollard may be the easiest guy to call out.
Well, Tony Pollard has done a lot of really good things. I like to say this on our shows, they've thrown him into the deep end of the pool and they've asked him to swim. And that's the thing with Tony Pollard is the more they put on the plate, the better he has. Yes, he's outstanding at Memphis when it came to running the football between the tackles, bouncing it outside, showed toughness doing that, though. He was a backup guy at Memphis, rotated quite a bit, but you could see the traits there. Catches the football extremely well, runs routes well. So those are the things. Going to have to work on the blitz pickup stuff. He's going to have to figure out, though, okay, I got to sit down on my guy, be a little bit more power, a little bit more pop. Those are the types of things you miss from Ezekiel Elliott.
That's what I was about to say.
When you say
get some notes from Zeke.
Yeah, when you take complete back traits, that's the one thing that Pollard lacks, but he has done a great job. I'm to the point now that if Ezekiel does not report in the Giants opening game, I think Tony Pollard's your starter at that running back.
Is that something that can be learned, or is that something that's just in you? Like, we know Zeke loves contact.
Well, no, we know Zeke loves contact, but it's one of those things where you have to understand, first off, the willingness part you can be taught. You know, the part, though, about where the blitzes are coming from, who you're going to, these are all things that, he's going to have to become more accustomed with what the offensive line calls are when Dak Prescott identifies who the Mike linebacker is. These are all things that he's going to have to learn, and he will. He's a bright guy. Everybody I've talked to says he's more than willing to do the pass protection stuff to make this work.
Kellen Moore, we haven't got to see much. Obviously, they're not going to show their hand in preseason, but it seems like there might be something there, something exciting.
Yeah, and Kellen Moore has done a nice job, I think, he's taken, the practices that we've been able to watch, Linz, has been that he has, you said hasn't shown his hand in these games, but if you go back and watch practice like we have for now 29, 30 days, it's been about him trying to get the ball in playmakers' hands. He's playing to Dak Prescott's strength, move the pocket, do things to allow Dak to throw the ball out on the edge. With these receivers, downfield shots, Randall Cobb on some in cuts. You got Jason Witten back he's doing things. Heck, we saw it the other night, though. Cooper Rush throwing the ball all the way down the field to Tavon Austin, shorter guy, but here's Tavon Austin on a deep crossing route. Those are things that you could take advantage of. Get the playmakers in position to make plays and let them do that.
Again, a reminder, you are looking live at an evening practice here at the Star in Frisco. We wrapping up, Brian, inside?
Yeah, we're getting close. Yeah, getting close to the stretch. Yeah, it looks like that they've called it off. So yeah, that's the end of the practice. So again, it was something to do with some type of situation. Jason Garrett always likes to put, down by 3. You have 1 timeout left and 1:07. So
scenarios.
These scenarios all work here. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about someone who is really getting big in the conversation. Taco Charlton obviously might have aggravated his ankle a little bit, but for a high draft pick, Cowboys fans got to be excited at what they saw against Houston.
Well, with Taco, you're worried about, though, is why is it taking so long? Why is it, the question was asked today about, has the light come on here for Taco? And, I think that Taco always had that inside of him, to do. But, Rod Marinelli and I were talking before the game about this, and he goes, my guys need to be tough. My guys need to have fire and passion and all those things. And I think with Taco, we haven't always seen that from him. And so, but in the game, what we did see, Linz, is Taco had an injury. Taco went out of the game for one play, then came back. So the old Taco would have been a guy that would have probably sat this one out and said, nah, I'm good. I'm not going to do this. But he came back in. He nicked up his ankle a little bit, but he had a really nice game when it came to coming off the football, being disruptive, and playing with that passion and toughness that Rod Marinelli wants him to.
We're going to get in later in the show to talk about the depth of this Cowboys defense, but one name as we wrap up the Houston talk that we cannot ignore is young safety Donovan Wilson.
Right, yeah, Donovan Wilson has been one of those guys that it's a lot like Tony Pollard is on the defensive side. When he first came to the rookie camp, he was able to, they threw him. He was one of the only safeties they had. So what do? They throw him in there, and he's now immediately, Chris Richard is throwing, okay, how about this check? How about this check? How about this check? And you're thinking, oh, rookie, he's just, but the kid doesn't look overwhelmed. He has a nose for the football. You talk about when you want to play safety in the National Football League, what do you got to do? You got to be able to hit. but you got to have eyes, and your eyes allow you to play with that range. When you see the field, you can go make plays. Donovan Wilson has been able to do that.
All right, Lindsay Draper and Brian Broaddus broadcasting from the Star in Frisco. Practice still going on inside Ford Center. Brian, let's get into some news of the week as we kick it off. And the best news everyone's excited about is that Byron Jones is on schedule. And did he do a little work today?
He did do a little work today. And that with Byron, it was nice to see him out there with the stretch, and do at least, Byron's been a guy at camp that's kind of done stuff not on his own, but away from the media eye. And so, now you see him moving around a little bit. I can't tell you, Linz, you and I, we work here at the Star every day.
Yep.
And so remember even before training camp how Byron Jones is out there by himself doing a lot of drills, working, trying to get ready. Jason Garrett told us today in the walk-off that this was the plan all along. It was going to be towards the last preseason game before Byron Jones would be able to come back, and he has. So these corners, have been playing very, very well too. So having him in the mix, I think, will be a good thing as well.
You just saw Chidobe Awuzie pick off Dak Prescott. Looks like there was a miscommunication inside, but right as you mentioned those cornerbacks, they're shining again.
Yeah, again, I thought practice was over with in here. This must be the compete period.
He wants more. He wants to see more.
He wants to see a little bit more. But yeah, this is where we're at right now. And you're talking, like I said, Awuzie and Lewis. All these guys have done such a nice job, of filling in for Byron Jones. You kind of felt like that maybe something would be different there, without Byron. But, if they had to play without Byron Jones, I think they would have had enough guys to do it. They'd had 4 guys to go out there and play and have been just fine with that.
Are we doing sprints here at the end of practice? Oh, yeah, we
are.
Now we're really wrapping things up.
Now we're at the end of practice.
Is Coach Garrett running again?
He always runs with them. Yes, he sure does. Sure does.
All right, more news. Demarcus Lawrence is, something to be excited about, always.
Right.
We're thinking week 1 here?
Yeah, week 1, I think it's been that way all along for him. He, if you go back and try and find out, okay, here's the guy. And he was very conscious about this, though, the surgery on his shoulder. And when it came down to the point of like, okay, when am I going to sign here? What am I going to do? So I kind of feel like, though, that's where, he was looking at he was thinking, okay, I have so many days. I got to get this shoulder fixed. He did. He got signed. He got the shoulder fixed, and now he'll be ready for week 1.
All right, Brian, let's just, the 4th preseason game matters. We know that, but
right.
We're a little excited to talk about the regular season, and I want to talk about this defense and how deep they are, what you're seeing. At this point, Brian, I know you're trying to decide who all they can keep.
Yeah, it is.
It's tough.
It is. And, Rod Marinelli will tell you, though, it is about the scoring defense is what he'll tell you about. He'll say, hey, we'll give up yards. That's fine. But I want to be one of the top scoring defenses in the league. And if you look at what the ones have done as they've done these 3 preseason games, I believe it's like 6 drives and 8 drives, and there's been 6 punts, turnovers. They've done a really nice job of limiting people to start, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the front 7. I think when you watch with Smith and Van Der Esch, and then even Joe Thomas in there at times. They've got some depth, Lindsay, at this defensive front 7, and then the cornerbacks we mentioned earlier, and the safeties are playing as well.
Big shout out, obviously, to Rod Marinelli allowing Chris Richard to kind of take over and get the guys in here that he wants, and he's able to coach them exactly how he wants.
Yeah, that's the truth, and I think that it took a big, you have to, like I say, put your ego aside.
Oh yeah.
And I think that Rod Marinelli put his ego aside right there. He said, hey, listen, Chris is really, not that Rod doesn't understand the modern offense and stuff. Rod hates playing against the modern offense. He would rather you try and run the football on him and let him pass rush and do that. But Chris is a little bit more, a little bit more of a thought on how to some blitz package. And Rod, that's good for Rod because Rod just wants to coach that defensive line. He wants to say, the rushmen, get my guys up the field.
Those are his guys.
Get my guys up the field. Let me make some good things happen up there. So, yeah, it is. It's putting your ego aside. It's doing the best thing you can for the team, and that's what they've been able to do.
All right, guys, if you have any questions for us right now, I'll be getting to them at Dallas Cowboys on Twitter, so go ahead and throw them up there. Brian, let's keep it on moving and talk about some guys from last year's draft class as the wind picks up. Hopefully we're getting a cold front here coming to Dallas.
There you go.
Wishful thinking. Let's talk about the draft class from last year, because there's a sophomore slump. But as I'm looking at these names on this list, I'm feeling hopeful, starting with Leighton Vander Esch and the way he's going to play again with newly signed Jalen Smith.
Yeah, and it's such a great combination. It's like peanut butter and jelly, if you want to say that how these two have worked together. And I think the reason that you have such that Jalen Smith is so excited about signing that contract is because he knows he's playing with Leighton Vander Esch. But I don't see any real problems with the learning curve or anything here with Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, last year the learning curve was very, very small. I meant to say the slump. I don't see any sophomore slump with this guy playing. He's just that well prepared. He's Sean Lee-like in his vision, his focus, and his ability to get to the football. So I expect Leighton Vander Esch from the word go, from week 1 through week 16, and hopefully through the playoffs, you'll have that all-pro player that you had last year.
How are you feeling? Connor Williams, obviously, is the second-round pick, so I'm thinking offensive line here. The return of Travis Frederick, that in itself is a story, Brian, and how big not only it is for him, but for the team to have him back.
Yeah, with Leighton, with Connor Williams, and then you talk about with Travis Frederick, it has been outstanding to see them work together. And, and let's be honest, Linz, Travis Frederick is still trying to teach himself how to be an all-pro again. And I mean this in a way of, hey, this guy is, having to teach himself how to play football. There were some times, this illness robbed him of some of his the motor skills and things like that. So he's having to go back and do it. But Connor Williams has come in. Connor Williams has put on weight. He looks bigger. He's not lost any of his agility. He's still the athlete. So you're going to see him. When you talk about the inside 3 guys, Connor Williams, Travis Frederick, and Zach Martin, boy, those are 3 big athletic guys that when defenses, when you talk about cutting those defenses in half and allowing that ball to go up inside, those are the guys that can surely do it.
Talk to me about Michael Gallup, because I remember his rookie season. It seemed, Brian, like each game he picked up on something new, and now he's put them all together, and you saw big things in the first preseason game from him.
Yeah, Michael Gallup, I think, Linz, has turned into a guy that is, we mentioned Amari Cooper being 1. I think that you talk about Michael Gallup as being 1B, maybe 1A,
wow.
1B with those 2 guys. And there's rarely that a team has 2 number 1 wide receivers. I think, though, that Michael Gallup, with the time that Amari Cooper has been out, I think that has helped him develop. And he got stronger in the offseason. There's times where people would bully him on the outside, and they're not bullying him anymore. Contested catches, routes up the field. He's doing all the things you want him to do.
Talk to me about Dorrance Armstrong, because, Brian, this is a name that last year, okay, it takes a while for you to get accustomed to the NFL and the defensive line, but now I'm hearing his name more and more as just somebody who might be able to help in this rotation.
Rotation is the right word from right there, because what you're thinking about with this guy now is, though, okay, what can I do how can I put him into more situations? That way you don't have to have Lawrence go 65 plays a game. Maybe you can take him back to 30, 45, on that, and then you work that route to be able to have a guy that can come in and substitute and be effective and not be compromised at that position. You got it with Armstrong. Yeah, he hit the rookie wall at the end of last season, but I'll tell you one thing, though. He has come out, and all the snaps he took in OTA and through training camp and stuff, he has been outstanding.
Twitter question right here for you, Brian.
Okay.
I know how I feel. How are you feeling about Randall Cobb in this offense?
Yeah, I love Randall Cobb in this offense. I think that Randall Cobb will make a big difference in this offense because, to me, he'll make plays down the field. If you've ever watched the Green Bay Packers play, he was one of those guys that could get down the field from the slot. Cole Beasley, nothing against him. Everything is underneath and shallow and stuff like that. But you're talking about a guy, when you get the ball in his hands, he can go up the field. He gets up the field in a hurry. He's very reliable catching the football. He catches it well on the move. He knows how to make the contested catches. I'm very, very excited about the addition of Randall Cobb because I think the addition of Cobb and then also Jason Witten playing inside will give Dak Prescott options on third down, but options down the field.
And I think that's where, Brian, I've heard you talk about maybe in comparison to Cole Beasley, he might have a leg up on.
Oh, he does. He does. I mean, you're talking about even run after catch. Cole Beasley was good at catching the football and getting what he can and then get to the ground. Randall Cobb is like a running back. He's a physical guy with the ball in his hands, and I think that's what the Cowboys are looking forward to having.
More questions on Twitter as practice is wrapping up inside Ford Center, Brian, about the tight end position and just what the whole situation. It's a mess right now. So they had guys work out recently because nobody's healthy. What are we looking at, though, for the regular season?
Yeah, I think for the regular season, though, it's going to be, with Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin. I think those guys will be back. And then you add with Jason Witten. He's been able to kind of go through. So right now it looks bad for this 4th preseason game, but we'll hopefully, like you say, things will happen when we start ready for the Giants week 1. Those other tight ends will be able to practice, and then you'll have your full complement of guys. But I think they're only going to keep 3. The guys they have right now are going to either be a practice squad guys. I think McElroy will be a practice squad guy. Lucas doesn't have any more practice squad eligibility, even though he's shown up some. So I think that the full complement of guys will be back when we get ready for Giants week.
All right, Brian, who's your pick for game number 4? Obviously, Jason Garrett. Let's share this story today from the press conference. Jason Garrett was asked, you were a backup for a lot of your career.
Right.
How important is this game do you think it is? And, I mean, it sounds like he is all in for the 4th preseason game.
No, he's clearly all in because he understands that he still has to make some decisions, and I think that's where, to me, with this roster, it's very important that he still is like, again, I was talking to Rod Marinelli before the game, and I said, are you any closer about these defensive linemen? He's like, no, I'm really not. I'm just not close. I mean, I understand what they are, but I would like to see some of these kids get some more opportunities, some more snaps. And it very well could come down, Lindsay, too. It could come down to this final preseason game in the 4th quarter of guys, with 6-7 minutes to go in the game, making the team or not on plays.
For me, Brian, I will have my eyes on these wide receivers because the Devin Smith and Cedric Wilson, a lot of these guys are really similar with their speed.
Right.
And I think a lot of coaches will be watching as well.
Well, that's the thing about it, Lindsay, is you get these receivers, and I asked Jason Garrett this question today. I said, hey, are you purposely putting these wide receivers in special team situations so they can show you what they can do?
The more you can do.
The more you can do, and absolutely, when you're talking about not only can you return punts, but can you be a flyer? Can you be on the L1 on the kickoff team? Can you be the R3? Can you cover kicks? Matter of fact, if you look at what happened in the game last week, Cedric Wilson made a tackle or assisted on a tackle on the kickoff team. So, yeah, I mean, they're looking for that guy. They're looking for that Noah Brown guy that they're probably not going to have for the first 6 weeks of the season.
Noah Brown, they love this guy.
They do love Noah Brown. He's a different body type, different type player, different toughness. When you talk about running the football, almost like a tight end body, the way that he looks and the way he blocks.
Okay, Brian, I said I'll have my eyes on wide receivers. Where will you be looking, and who's on the bubble for you?
Yeah, I think it's the wide receivers, Linz. I think you're absolutely right about it. But I think it's the defensive line. And how about the safeties, though, too? I mean, there's, where are they going to carry 5? Are they going to carry 4? I mean, there's so many different combinations. Can they carry 5 wide receivers instead of 6? There's things that they're going to have to look at. I mean, they've got some options. Keep an eye on a guy like, too, this running back situation. We really don't know what the situation is going to be with Zeke. But do you try and waive a guy like, because he's a vested veteran, Alfred Morris? They did this a couple years ago with Kellen Moore. You waive a vested veteran, because then a vested veteran can sign with whoever he wants. Well, you're not going to lose. So to protect some roster spots, keep an eye. It might be funny that you see Alfred Morris's name on the cut list, but the plan is to bring Alfred Morris back if that's the case. So again, running backs, the linebacking situation, I think even the safety situation, wide receivers, defensive line, just take your pick. This game will be all kinds of storylines going on in it right now.
More questions coming in from Twitter at Dallas Cowboys. If anybody has one, while we're up here, Brian, and since it's still fresh in the news, your thoughts on Andrew Luck? And people, if anybody here is booing Andrew Luck, you're not invited to this conversation.
No, I think it's really unfortunate about the Andrew Luck situation. As Chris Ballard, their general manager, I know quite well, and Chris has built a really nice team. You remember the Cowboys? We talked, in a December 15th matchup, went to Indianapolis and got your helmet handed to you there. So, yeah, I think that when you're talking about a quarterback, Andrew Luck, he just got tired of fighting it, Linz. He just got tired of he got tired of having the rehabs. And I was asking Sean Lee about the same thing, and I said, is it that hard? He says, yes, it is. He says, you want to be out there, you want to play, you want to do everything in your power to play, and then you get hurt, and then you have to spend the same. And it's like every day I'm rehabbing, and then you get back out there, and then you get hurt again. So, yeah, it's tough. And he's made the decision to move on, and you know, it hurts the Indianapolis Colts because without him, they're probably not a playoff team. But
right.
But the good thing for the Colts and Chris Ballard, who's a really good drafter, he'll go with Jacoby Brissett, see how far he can go. But there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. Check out the draft show this spring. We'll talk about a few.
The draft show is fantastic. Not only do they do it here for the Cowboys, but it's like at the top of the charts on iTunes because you guys talk about so many different guys.
We do. We try.
All 32 teams, fans listen.
Yeah, you have to. If you're a fan, we don't discriminate. If you're a fan of quarterbacks, we'll talk about some quarterbacks. If you're a running back fan, we'll talk about those guys too.
All right, Brian, focusing back to the Cowboys, just had to throw that in there and get your thoughts on this, but what do you think from Dak Prescott? You've been at 29 training camp practices, right? Okay, what kind of jumps is he going to make this year?
I think the thing that's most exciting to me about Dak Prescott, and when you watch him play, is the mechanical part of him. You know, I think that you're seeing something different. With Dak, he was such a loose play player, and when I mean loose play, we see him throw to his left and run and move and throw. Yeah, that's something that Dak Prescott's always going to be able to do. But how can Dak Prescott stand in the pocket and make those throws, make those tough, tight window throws? I think these defensive backs challenged him. I think it was a good camp for him to get challenged by these guys here. But what I'm looking for, the difference, where you'll see the jumps are the pocket passes, the accuracy. Dak Prescott, when he was bad, would miss by yards or feet. Now he doesn't miss by that. It's more like inches that he misses with. So if, you know, with the accuracy improved, the decision-making improved, and then we'll think about, okay, what's happening in the pocket? You know, protecting the football. Don't allow yourself to get hit and stripped. You know, make sure you maintain that. Make good decisions throwing the football to the receivers or the backs, whoever's open, and then move the team that way. And I think those are the things I'm looking forward in the jump for him.
I love what you said about the defensive backs challenging him.
Yeah.
And it brings me back to the pregame show that I was doing before the Houston game. Jerry Jones told me, this is the most talent I've ever had in this young of a team. I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about. They just go head-to-head in everything because they're all so young. They're all friends. I mean, it just seems to be a great competition.
No, it is a great competition. And, you know, I would challenge Jerry to remember some of those teams, because I was
Wish you were in my seat. You could have challenged me.
I was on the other end of some of those beatings we took when I was in Green Bay with that young team that they had in the 90s, early 90s. But, yeah, I feel like, though, you know, he makes a point about these guys, and he makes the right point. And, you know, they've done a great job. Will McClay, Stephen Jones, and I got to give Jason. I've been very critical of Jason Garrett a lot. You know, I'm on the guy every week. Fire him, fire him, fire him. You know, that's me. That's my. You know, they all wear that. But and again, he reminds me he won the NFC 3 of the last time. Every time I tried to fire him. But I think you got to give him credit too. I think you have to give him credit for helping build this team. He has an understanding of the roster. He has a hand in the roster. He's helped, you know, steer the direction they want to go. His father, I worked with his father, Jim Garrett, for a long time here, and his father was an outstanding scout. And I think Jason's got some of that ability, and they've built a very good young team. Now it's up to him to coach that team so he can get a contract extension that everybody else doesn't want from this team right now.
It's so crazy that there are so many other contracts to talk about. Somebody brought up Jason Garrett's contract, and I was like, we haven't even talked about that so far of training camp. But you're a former NFL personnel guy.
Sure.
The way these Cowboys draft, you mentioned Will McClay, I mean, this is something that you should not take for granted if you're a Cowboys fan. It is absolutely incredible. That's why you're in this problem with all the contracts.
That's why you're in the problems with the contracts right now, because you have drafted well, and then you've also found a way to give the pro personnel department some credit too, because they go out and get a guy like Christian Covington, who's going to make this football team as a nose tackle. Kerry Hyder as a defensive end. They saw a situation to Detroit where Kerry Hyder was playing out of position as a nose tackle, and then Kerry Hyder goes on the street, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, Kerry Hyder can play under tackle and he can play defensive end. And you've seen him, that relentless spirit that Jason Garrett talks about, and I'm amazed at the way, but the pro department, the college department, continuity has helped this team a lot. Same coaching staff, same front office. those are the things that help you build a really good team.
You mentioned Kerry Hyder from the Lions. It seems like he kind of burst on the scene here, and now a lot of people are talking about him. What skill set does he bring to that rotation that Marinelli likes?
Yeah, I think it's the relentless spirit that he has, and he's one of these guys that plays. The technique is asked of him. You know, he's like, okay, how do I rush the passer? This guy had a lot of sacks, Lynn, throughout his career. I mean, when he was in Detroit, playing in a 4-3, playing as a tackle, he was winning off the line really quick. And so, you know, and then they play him on the outside. He's winning on the edge. You know, I was very impressed by him. And then, again, he gets thrown in a situation where he's playing out of position as a nose, and that's not his game. So but I've been the most impressed by what he has in his tool belt. You know, he's not the old saying, a one-trick pony. This guy has tools to escape. He doesn't stay blocked. He's always staying moving, active. Those are the things you got to like about him.
All right, guys, we are just going to quickly shout out all of these Cowboys fans. Brian, we've done many shows here, outside, around the Star. There are consistently so many fans that come out and hang out on the plaza. There's so many restaurants around. It's great. Yeah,
it is. And we actually went out to lunch today. There's several places you can go out here and have a really nice meal, places to visit. I love Tostitos Plaza here with all the fans. I'll remember this from last year when we did the NFC divisional game here, and how many fans braved really cold weather to come out here. And these fans, you know, they're very passionate about their football team, and nice to see them even show up for training camp practice.
Yeah, absolutely. The stadium in here was packed tonight, this evening. It was great stuff. Brian, more questions on Twitter. Most of them, I would say, probably is, what's your gut feeling on Ezekiel Elliott? I know none of us know for sure.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things that, you know, I'll put it out there. I just don't think Zeke will miss game checks. I really don't. I think that there comes a time where you can't make up any missed money that you have or leave on the table. Now maybe Zeke will be stubborn about this and say, okay, I'm going to make them play without me and see how that goes. But you know, Tony Pollard has shown up well, so we'll see. But you know, I don't want to play without Ezekiel Elliott. They understand that they might have to, but my gut feeling is I think that when we get down to it, I think Ezekiel Elliott, the right people need to get in the room together. Ezekiel Elliott, Stephen Jones, they need to sit down face to face and figure this out, but I think they will, and I think we'll see him for the Giants.
And I've heard from people that if they just get together, it could get done within an hour.
That's why I think this is so difficult, because if Ezekiel Elliott was here and practicing in a training camp and all that, I feel like, though, that Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones and those would sit down with him and say, okay, this is what we can do and this is what we can't do. And you know, I've worked with Stephen Jones a long time. I mean, you know, him and Jerry both, and you know, I've seen them close deals. I've seen them get on the phone and close a Tony Romo deal when he was going to Denver, you know, for free agent when he was coming out of college in 2000. I've seen these guys work. If you meet with them, loyal to them, do what you have to do. And you know, Jerry Jones has been very loyal to Ezekiel Elliott. He has. You know, I mean, he was going after the commissioner like, you know, hey, listen, I'm not going to put up with this commissioner anymore, you know. And
I'm not backing down.
I'm not backing down from the commissioner. A lot of it had to do with, like, he got tired of the situation with players and Ezekiel Elliott and his players getting suspended, and you know, so yeah, that's something I think that Jerry Jones feels a little hurt by that right now. That you know, hey, I had your back. I need you to have my back as we build this football team and try and go forward. And yeah, again, if we get Zeke with Stephen Jones, I think you can get some things done.
And this has nothing to do with Ezekiel Elliott, but Dak Prescott has been here the whole time. I mean, in the face, like seeing everyone, talking to them every day. I mean, that can't be easy either.
No, it can't. But Dak Prescott has a different scenario than, and I think that where, you know, quarterbacks, you know, you're in a situation where you have to show that leadership. You have to say, okay, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to prove to you I can make this contract work, you know. And I think there's some people that have their doubts if Dak is a $30 million quarterback. Now, you wouldn't think that after the throw he made in the Giants game last year, that one going to his left, and you wouldn't think that after the throw he made in the Houston game to Michael Gallup coming back as well. So, yeah, it's you know, Dak understands what he has to do. He understands he's the leader of this football team. They need him, and he's going to negotiate, I think, in a way that is going to be favorable for him and for the Cowboys, because he's showing them hey, I'm going to stand here. I know I'm not making a lot of money right now, but I'm going to stand here and I'm going to lead this football team, and I'm going to force you to have to pay me.
I mean,
it's a good strategy.
It's as entertaining as you would think it is,
right,
working here,
right,
and seeing it all go down. And one of my favorite things about working here is how upfront the Jones family is. Well, they will come out and tell you exactly how they're feeling,
right,
and so you know from one side what's going on.
One of my great stories about working with Jerry Jones is, and this is when I started on the media side, was that I was walking down the hall at Valley Ranch, and he was coming the other way, and he stopped me in the hallway, and he says, hey, you're kicking my ass pretty good. and in the media, and I said, yes, sir. And he goes, but you're fair about it. And he goes, keep doing it. You're doing a great job. You know,
story of our lives.
Yeah, and I just, you know, to have the platform to be able to have, I mean, they've given me a second career here. I mean, I appreciate you working with me so much the way you do. But, yeah, I mean, they give you the opportunity. We talked about with Jalen Smith and stuff like that. You know, it's been a situation where, you know, he looks at it and says, oh, long term, what can I do? What can the Dallas, excuse me, what can the Dallas Cowboys do for me? Okay, I'm going to do something for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, hey, the Cowboys will show you if you're willing to negotiate and willing to make a fair deal, they'll deal with you and deal with you in the future as well.
All right, guys, practice is wrapping up, if not already wrapped up. You got a few guys punting, kicking, working on some little things after practice, and of course, practice is tomorrow in the evening as well.
Sure
so
is.
If they were to come out, tomorrow's your last chance. So if you're watching this and you're in Dallas, tomorrow's your last chance. What will they see?
Well, I think you'll see a similar practice to what you had today. Jason Garrett told us today he was going in full pads again. So, you know, more situational stuff. Might see some things to do with maybe trying to get some of the young guys ready for the Tampa game. Maybe give some Tampa looks, the cards and stuff like that. He just wants these young guys to be able to put their best foot forward. So it'll still be a good practice. He'll still be able to watch, you know, all the guys, Dak Prescott and Cobb and those guys catch. And who knows, maybe somebody else will show back up at practice and, you know, from the injured list, and you can kind of get a little bit of idea of how they're moving around out there.
It's fantastic inside. The stadium is incredible. It's free admission, free parking. So come check it out tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you are here. Brian, some questions on Twitter coming for your optimism about Amari Cooper, who tells us that he can play with the pain in his foot. But just what are you thinking, though, as we're not even to week 1 yet?
Yeah, I think that Amari Cooper has played with plantar fasciitis before and had a 1,000-yard season at Oakland. So, you know, they're talking about it's more of a ligament type of a thing than it really is a tear or anything. So we'll see. I mean, he's a tough guy. You watch him. I think the Cowboys have always had the best interests of their players at heart. And, you know, rest, recovery seems to be the best for these types of injuries, and they're keeping them off their feet. There's no sense of having to do this. So I bet you Amari Cooper will be fine for week 1. You know, him, Dak, those guys worked really hard in the offseason, the OTAs. They had a great chemistry with each other last year. I think that will carry over. Now you have Michael Gallup coming up. So you get a lot of good things. It's not going to have to be just the Amari Cooper show. I think other factors are going to figure in this as well.
You mentioned people who are playing. When we got to Hawaii, Brian, and we're down there, guys, it was 200 degrees in Hawaii on that field. But it was interesting. Sean McVay didn't even bring some of his starters.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting tactic. I mean, I don't know. Would you do that?
Well, you saw what happened to Lamar Miller the other night.
Oh, 100%.
So yeah, that's
100%.
I think that's why that's why coaches tend to look at this to play preseason games a different way. Some guys believe you go out there and play like Jason Garrett, go out there and play and find a way to kind of work through that. And other coaches like these younger coaches, the Sean McVays of the world, and they really don't. They don't want to play their guys. They don't want to risk injury. Maybe the roster's not as deep. The Rams do have a deep roster, even though I feel like, though, the Cowboys 2s and 3s really took it to the Rams 2s and 3s. That's a good sign right there if you can do that. Playoff
absolutely.
Team. Yeah.
Some questions now, Brian, about how you're feeling, which I think is no secret, just about the kicking situation that Dallas is in. It seems sometimes maybe the comfort level with Brett Maher is better at 50 yards than 20, something like that.
Should you worry about the punting game? You know, I mean, everybody's asking me about Chris Jones, if they would change out the punter. And I think Brad Sham put it very well on the broadcast the other night. He said, listen, if Redford was more consistent, maybe you would think about that. But he didn't miss a kick today. I think the long was 49 yards. So, and I'm talking about Maher. So yeah, I'm getting more confident in him. I think it's just they've got to settle him down and figure out, give him as many kicks as they can. If they get in this Tampa game and they can kick some more, have some more kicks, by all means, let him have them all.
More questions and basically comments about Ezekiel coming back and working with Pollard as a 1-2 punch.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
What would that look like?
Yeah, I think this is where Kellen Moore has got the opportunity to do some good, because the consistency, I use the word consistency, but I think that Kellen would love the opportunity to have them both in the backfield at the same time. I think that would be, because what you could do is you could have one guy as a blitz pickup guy and the other guy you could scat and then and work him up the field, or you can fake the ball going one way and screen it back to the other. There's so many creative ways when you have two backs that are outstanding like that. I think that you just take full advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm just sorry, pardon me, as I watch the B-roll here.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard.
Jordan Chun.
Jordan Chun is the guy that you guys are telling me is going to be on this team.
You know what? When we break it down to the 53, I think that my man Jordan Chun, it's going to be really, really close. He plays on all your special teams. He's a tough guy. He catches the football well. And so, and he's able to run with some power. Trust me, my LSU Tigers felt that Troy power from him in a game where he just tore us up. But he's one of those guys that you just have to be impressed by the way he's come in. And if Elliott's here, you could keep three backs. If it's Elliott, Pollard, and then you have a guy like Chung that could play the special teams as well to kind of make up for the other two, then I think you're doing a good job.
All right, Brian. Final question we're going to pull from Twitter, and I'm going with this one because there are so many. What does Devin Smith have to do for you Thursday night to make this team?
You know what? This is going to come down to...
It's going to be so entertaining.
I told you this is going to come down to the fourth quarter, and you watch, these guys are just trading blows. If they keep five, if they only keep five, it's only going to be Wilson or Smith. And, I think when I watched the film of when they were playing special teams, Devin Smith was a little bit more aggressive when it came to that flyer, that when you put him on the outside and running down the field and covering punts. But then Cedric Wilson had a tackle. Then Cedric Wilson had a big punt return. So
they're running neck and neck.
They're running neck and neck. If they keep six, I think both make it. If they had to keep one, I personally think I would go with Cedric Wilson. I think
Speed?
I think the speed is a little bit better there. I think there's the things you can do with him with special teams as a returner and stuff. I feel like they drafted him for a reason. Now I understand why the Jets drafted Devin Smith, because he's finally healthy. Devin Smith has gotten a little bit banged up, but he keeps playing, and I think that's an admirable trait to have.
This has been fun, Brian.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this whole hour has flown by. Always great to talk Cowboys football with Brian Broaddus, and great to have all of you out here on the Tostitos Championship Plaza joining us from this live post-practice broadcast. Again, practice tomorrow evening, same thing. Brian and I will not be broadcasting, but he's always tweeting. Just check his Twitter if you need to find out what's going on with the Cowboys. Thank you guys for tuning in online and live here in Frisco. We'll catch up with you guys at the game on Thursday against Tampa Bay.